places in the world. What we try to do is to learn from our experience and to work in partnership with our boards of elections and to be very prepared for what we believe will be an 80% turnout in this election. So in short, to try to deal with those four major issues, we did start in the primary election by using backup paper ballots. As you may know, our state with 88 counties, in the primary election, 53 of those counties were using, actually the primary was 54, we're now down to 53, using touchscreen voting machines. 44 of Ohio's counties use the Diebold Premier system. Of those 44, one uses all optical scan, the other 43 use the touchscreen at the polling places, and then of course for the absentee ballots, which have to be paper ballots, they're optically scanned as they're mailed in. You do have some situations when people vote absentee in person that they're voting on a touchscreen machine at the Board of Elections. We tried the backup paper ballots in the March primary. We found them to be serve exactly the purpose which we planned on, which was to serve as a backup so that when we had power outages, we had misprogrammed voting machines, we were able to do what they attempted to do at Kenyon College in 2004, which was to keep voting going by offering a paper ballot that we could assure would be counted. In the March primary, because this was a big change for the boards, we did not require the boards to post signs about it. It was at the option of the boards, and we did not require the boards to ask the question whether a voter would prefer a paper ballot. We're still not going to require that question on every voting transaction because we understand that if that were the case, it would actually slow down the voting process. But we are mandating for this election that there be 4 signs posted prominently in each polling location about the availability of backup paper ballots. And in looking at this and looking at the difficulties that a large turnout may present, we also understood that just having them available, we needed to go a step further and provide for an orderly way to make them available to voters in the event that more voters choose to vote them. So we worked with the election officials. We made an exception for single precinct polling locations of 700 or fewer voters because the law permits up to 1,400 voters in a precinct. So in that case, the polling location would look pretty much like it always has, with one line going to the sign-in for that precinct, and then a voter being able to opt if they prefer. But we know that the smaller counties tend to handle the electronic touchscreen machines with a little more efficiency because they're not dealing with just the massive numbers that you deal with in the larger counties. In other situations where it's a multiple precinct polling location or the number of voters in the precinct are greater than 700, the voters will have the opportunity to actually move into a second line if they prefer to vote a paper ballot. The primary voting system is and still will be the electronic touchscreen system, but we understand, having used them in the primary election, that the basis for offering the backup paper ballot is if there's a voter preference, if they have difficulty maneuvering that machine, although they have to make their choice before they actually get the card that would enable them to vote on the electronic machine. If the machines break down or we find that they're misprogrammed, such as what occurred in the primary in one county where they had left off the issues in one precinct that should have been on the ballot, until they could bring someone in to reprogram the machines, they were able to offer the voters the backup paper ballots so that voting could continue smoothly. Or in the event that the lines become very long. There's been so much study of Ohio since the 2004 election, and one of the studies that has come out has to deal with the issue of long lines, and that at a certain point in line, you can consider that voters could be disenfranchised because either they will balk and not get in line, or they will change their mind and say, I just can't wait in this line any longer. We have no guarantees that that voter would be able to come back within the 13 hours that the polling location would be open on that single day. So in an effort to ensure that every vote is counted, we're offering these alternatives and these choices.